Well, Dr. Michel Odent, it's an honor to have you with us at Prenatal Alliance.
I'm pleased to see
And
you, Laura.
yes,
We have
well,
not met for a long time.
true. You have recently published a book with a very interesting question. You understand childbirth in a mammalian way, and it has been more and more socialized. And you're asking, can humanity survive this way of exposing the laboring woman to a public, let's say? Tell us, how did this thought come to you?
Yes, in fact, it's simple. We have just to go back to the history of childbirth and to understand the crisis we are experiencing now. We have to go back to the previous big crisis that was about, we might say recently, 10,000 years ago, not so long ago in the history of mankind, but the big crisis was 10,000 years ago when our ancestors started to dominate nature. So when we talk about dominating nature, we always think of uh, agriculture, domestication of plants, animal husbandry, domestication of animals. We forget that at the same time, we dominate the life, we have modified, we have organized the life of human beings. And there is one aspect of the life of human beings that has been modified at that time. An important aspect is the period surrounding birth. We have, without giving details now, we can say that until that time, there was sufficient amount of information to say that in Paleolithic ages, that you said before this big crisis, women used to isolate themselves to give birth. Giving birth was a solitary experience, not only among mammals in general, but among human beings. And suddenly, at that time, birth was socialized. Important to recall that to understand the vocabulary we use today. I use in my book I'm publishing this year to understand that. So what does it mean? It means that suddenly, when a woman was giving birth, in general, there was somebody present, at least one person, often, almost always from that time. And very important, it is that during the period surrounding birth, suddenly all human groups have transmitted from generation to generation beliefs, rituals. So that's the way to summarize what I call the socialization of childbirth that started about 10,000 years ago. Just to illustrate examples of belief ritual, suddenly in all societies, we know about nearly all societies, they said the colostrum is bad for the baby. Colostrum means the pre-milk, what the baby might find in the breast immediately after birth. But everywhere they said it's bad. It has to be discarded. We don't need it, and so on and so on. And breastfeeding was delayed, started 2-3 days after birth. So that's an example of how a belief inspiring rituals was suddenly a way to modify, to socialize this period surrounding birth.
And the
I might
babies
give,
were hungry? The babies were left hungry for 2, 3 days?
it depends. In many societies, you are giving something clarified, but herbs of tea, nothing. But the point is, that was the common point, interfering with in this critical period surrounding birth. I don't want to give details now, more details, because it's just enough to recall that from that time until now, gradually, the birth was more and more socialized. We must observe that it was also more and more difficult. And now, after mentioning this critical period, 10,000 years ago, the Neolithic revolution, domination of nature, our ancestor, we have to go, but we have to consider what's happening today. Today, suddenly, there have been some ultimate phases in the social life of childbirth. I can talk about that because I started to be involved in childbirth in the middle of the 20th century as a medical student, obstetric department in Paris. It was 1953. So until that time, in general, birth was socialized, but it was women's business. When a woman was giving birth at home, it was still common at that time. The man was going to the pub, to the bistro in France, or he was given a task, for example, boiling water, things like that. And there are not many doctors involved in childbirth, except in some universities. So this is a time when birth became so masculine, the environment became masculinized. First, more and more doctors, and many of them were men. And after that, around 1970, it became commonplace to introduce baby's father. Remember, that's very recent. These are the last aspect of the social of childbirth. So this is to say, to explain that today, suddenly, we are obviously in a critical period. We have enough, a sufficient amount of knowledge to say we have reached the limits of the social of childbirth. I can summarize that to say that we cannot go further. For example, in the age of pharmacological drugs replacing natural hormones, which are cheap to use, in the age of safe, easy cesarean section, we can say at a global level, planetary level, at global level, today, most women don't give birth by themselves. They replace their hormones by drugs or C-section. They don't give birth by themselves. And that's serious if we realize that at the same time, we are learning from valuable scientific knowledge, information, that the hormones that a woman is supposed to release to give birth to the baby and to the placenta are hormones of love. So that suddenly we have to realize that hormones of love have become redundant in the period surrounding birth. That the limit, or there are other limits. For example, until recently, women were giving birth among familiar and friendly microbes where they were living. And baby was sharing the same antibodies as the mother. Baby was born among familiar and friendly microbes. That had an important mission, this microbe, to start to educate the immune system. Today, It's another matter. No need to it's not opinion. It's like that. Women don't give birth in the place where they live. They give birth elsewhere. The human system is not educated in the same way. That's something incredible. We might go on like that, say, oh, but today, one effect of reproductive medicine is to neutralize the laws of natural selection. Once more, I don't want to give details, many examples, but just a simple one. A woman who cannot give birth by herself today can transmit her genes as easily as another one. Have a cesarean section. So I might go on like that, for a long time. Suddenly, we can say we have reached the limits of socialized birth. That in fact, that's the meaning of my book. It's analyzing an absolutely new situation. That after that, what can we do? We can try to phrase appropriate questions. What next? What can we do? And so on, so on. And I must say that in my book, I don't go further than formulating, asking, phrasing the right question. That's the important point, to phrase the appropriate question. I don't go further. I'm careful not to provide theories. I'm careful not to provide opinions, or I'm careful not to predict anything. What I just try to do is to phrase appropriate question. Here we are at the present time. For the rest, we don't know, we cannot say. Often people who don't know me quite well talk about my theories. I avoid to express theories. I analyze situations, and then I phrase questions. Here we are at the present time. And the question, in fact, the main one is, but can humanity survive such a situation? Can survive socialized birth? So it's not easy to understand. Often people, when they ask me to talk, to discuss, they're expecting a practical comment, things like that. Often they want to talk about medicalization, they want to talk about things. But at the root of what's happening today, it's the socialization. Birth has been socialized. That's why I give a great importance to the title of this book. In English, it is Can Humanity Survive Socialized Birth? And in French is L'humanité peut-elle survivre à la naissance socialisée?
But you see, Michel, the childbirth is becoming more and more difficult for an immense quantity of women. Like nature has given us some ways to deal with pregnancy and labor and giving birth, but suddenly, I see here in Brazil, we have such a level of scheduled C-sections asked by women sometimes, asked by doctors other times, but we don't see the human body as capable anymore. And I think you addressed that very well. We have, as if we're diminishing the human body.
So that's an opportunity first to analyze the situation once more, why birth apparently became more and more difficult. And it's an opportunity to express some reason for optimism. apart, there are many reasons for optimism. Can humanity survive? But we have reason to ask this question. But there are also reasons for pessimism. So we have to realize that from the time when childbirth was socialized, gradually, we had some kind of cultural conditioning, develop cultural conditioning. And the basis of our cultural conditioning is that a woman is not able to give birth by herself. That's the turning point of this domination of nature. A woman is not able to give birth by herself. Of course, we might spend hours about that, but to be fast, let's look at the vocabulary we use constantly. When people talk about childbirth, what's happening during birth, look at the vocabulary. What is the focus? Focus is explained by the common use of some words. When a woman is giving birth, the focus is the woman guiding, coaching, many words like that.
Managing.
In many groups promoting natural childbirth, they talk about coaching. And that's among medical people, it's often labor management. It's the same. The basis of our cultural conditioning is that a woman cannot give birth by herself. She needs help. She needs to be guided. She needs somebody who knows. That's what gradually, period of 10,000 of years, became more and more an aspect of our conditioning. And the point today, and that's a reason for optimism, that in the age of modern neurophysiology, it's not impossible that we rediscover the basic need of laboring women. Are simple ways to explain that it's possible, but there is a first condition. To understand the first condition, we must recall that until now, researchers who started to try to study birth physiology, not many of them, but there are some articles in textbook, birth physiology. They were always starting from the same question. The question was, why are human births difficult? That's the basic question. And the answer was always, some variants always, for mechanical reasons. Shape of the skeleton of the mother, shape of the head of baby, medical reasons. For medical reasons, human births are difficult, full stop. It means we don't need to study in depth birth physiology. We cannot change the shape of the mother. But that's now the turning point we are expecting, which is possible. If we start the first condition, there are two conditions. First condition, that we start from the useful question. The useful question is not why human births are difficult. The useful question is why occasionally some women who are not special, like many other women, give birth very easily, quickly, even not the time to realize they're in labor, baby is born. That's the question. Why occasionally human births are easy and fast?
Perfect.
So if we start from this question, new way of thinking, what we need is a new way, new ways of thinking. It's not knowledge, it's not knowledge, new knowledge. It's not opinion theory. It's think in a different way. Why human births are occasionally easy and fast. And if we start from that, and if we take into account what we can learn today from neurophysiology, people who study how our nervous system works and so on, suddenly we can go a step further. Suddenly we ask questions relevant to what makes human beings special, what makes human beings special. And in particular, if we go that way, we learn from modern neurophysiologists about an essential, an important, vital concept regarding human nature. It's the concept of neocortical inhibition. I have to explain. We have to start what makes human being special. It's development of our brain. Incredible, the development, and particularly a part of the brain we call the new brain, the neocortex. It's thanks to this new brain that we are special compared with all the other mammals. We can communicate with a Zoom between South America and Europe. It's incredible compared with all other living creatures. That's what makes us special. The point is that we are at a turning point. We are at a turning point. Until recently, the neocortex, the new brain, the brain thanks to which we can do mathematics, was presented as a tool, an instrument in providing information about space, time, information, helping communication, things like that. It was a tool. But suddenly, in that big turning point, by chance it happens today, and we need to rediscover the basic need of every man, suddenly we realize that one effect of neocortical activity, or the activity of this new brain, in fact, can be very different what we are thinking until now. On the contrary, neocortical activity can inhibit, can obscure, can make more difficult some physiological function. So that would be a topic we might spend hours about that. It's a key understanding human nature in general, and a physiological process such as the birth process in particular. What does it mean when our neocortex is active, very active? Some physical functions, such as, for example, the sense of smell, are inhibited. And this has been demonstrated.
Yeah.
I give this example of sense of smell because it's easy to understand. If you drink a glass of wine, you reduced neocortical control, and your sense of smell is more powerful. That's the meaning of this concept, neocortical inhibition. It happens that the birth process among humans is also inhibited by neocortical activity.
That's a problem.
That's the only thing to understand, that the concept of neocortical inhibition. You cannot do mathematics, equations, and so on, while giving birth, that you have to go to another planet, forget the rest of the world. So this is what we can understand today. The basis of what you can understand is summarized in the concept of neocortical inhibition. To give birth, a woman need to stop thinking. It's a simplification. It's not exactly as simple as that, but so that's why we are reason for optimism. Because if you accept this concept, suddenly we can understand the solution nature found to make human birth possible and even occasionally easy. It's reducing neocortical activity. And there are, even today, there are still people, some part of the world and everywhere, occasionally, there are still people who can understand the solution that nature found to make human birth possible and even possibly easy. Some people still know that when by chance a woman gives birth, by chance, not always just by chance, when a woman gives birth easily, quickly, by herself, there is a time when she can forget her plans, what she read in books, what she learned, and so on. So she can behave in a strange way, sort of unacceptable, regarding a civilized woman, screaming, swearing. She can perceive odors that other people cannot perceive. That's a wonderful sign of a reduced neocortical activity, a very important sign. She can find herself in bizarre postures, mammalian, primitive postures, hand and knees and so on. And the days after, she cannot remember exactly what happened when she was giving birth. When you mix all these signs, which when you mix them, still occasions to that, you understand the solution that nature found to make human birth possible. It's reducing, eliminating, or at least reducing activity of the new brain, neocortical activity. When you understand that, we don't need to talk a long time about that. It means that we understand now, we rediscover after 10,000 of years of history, we rediscover the basic need of laboring women. We rediscover that originally giving birth is a solitary experience. That's what we should to understand today. It means, in other words, we understand that when a woman is giving birth, she must feel protected against all possible stimulations of her neocortex. You don't need to give details. It means language, it means light, no words, light, powerful. Right? It means not to feel observed, you observe yourself. It means not perceiving or possible danger. You pay attention. So that's simple. The point is to understand that when a woman is giving birth, she must feel protected against all possible neocortical stimulation. The keywords are not helping, guiding, controlling. On the contrary, we can understand today that helping an involuntary process is counterproductive. The keyword today is protection against all possible neocortical stimulation. So that's why suddenly, in such a scientific context, and after analyzing what's happening today in general, that's why we can wonder, can we rediscover the basic of laboring women? Can humanity survive socialized birth? That's why I consider it so important to make understood well understood, digest, analyze, to make understood by everybody the concept of socialized birth. And
This
why
is
we
very
must try
clear,
to
Michel.
desocialize birth.
Yeah, it's very clear what you bring. And it would be my dream that teenagers, our culture, would little by little assimilate these concepts. So, as when pregnancy comes and the couple starts thinking about childbirth, it would be much simpler, and we would have our institutions or our homes more equipped to respect that mammalian part of who we are.
Yes. The important point to understand that this issue must be well assimilated at a cultural level.
Yeah.
The issue is cultural. The point is not to talk to health professionals, to pregnant women, it has to be analyzed, understood, then assimilated at a cultural level. It's incredibly difficult it's not, cultural conditioning is incredibly powerful. And that's you have to look at it, how to start, to modify the cultural conditioning. One way was a way to start. We cannot reach everybody overnight. Probably it needs probably a long time. We don't know. Mm-hmm. But it's what we have to do today. It's an effect on cultural conditioning. We are at a time in our history, we have a great diversity of information, knowledge, many knowledge. That the point is not so much to acquire more knowledge, it's to go from knowledge to awareness.
Good.
To realize. For example, when I say that today most women don't need to release hormones of love to give birth baby and placenta, we might say it's knowledge. It's like that. They rely on. But the point is to go from this knowledge to awareness. But it means no hormone of love. That's serious. So here we are today. The priority today is not so much to acquire knowledge, more knowledge. We are bombarded by knowledge, but from people who are over specialized, and we don't know how to create links between different pieces of knowledge. So today we might say, to summarize and perhaps to finish our meeting, we have to go gradually from knowledge to new awareness, to realize what's happening today. And for that, we must be aware of what happened about 10,000 years ago, when our ancestors started to dominate nature. And whatever the topic today, we have reached the limits of the domination of nature. What to do? We are at the edge of the precipice. What to do? The only thing we can do is to avoid going the precipice, to take another direction. And we have this opportunity today, thanks to modern neurophysiology. So let's repeat that there are some reasons for optimism, among many reasons for pessimism.
Yeah, no, this is wonderful. You shed a galaxy of light on that process. When you say we cannot help a physiological process, we're already interfering with it. We might become a burden to the very birth we would love to assist. It's not a matter of assisting, it's leaving this woman live her process the way nature intended, the way her neurophysiologic nature intended. But that's difficult because we want to care. We want hands-on.
Incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
Incredibly difficult. But however, we never know what can induce a new awareness.
True.
New awareness is mysterious. Can be something in the media suddenly. Suddenly the media are interested in the long-term effect of how babies are born. Until now, the media are interested in the effect of human activities. The weather, the climate, pollution of oceans. So the media are interested in the effect of human activities. Imagine that suddenly the media become interested in the evolution of Homo. That would be new. Until now, that would be new. So a reason for optimism is that reaching a new awareness is something mysterious. It can happen. We don't know. Here we are at the present time. But
well, at Prenatal Alliance, we sure admire the way you think, the way you gift us with so much intelligence, so much information about what really goes on. Although you say people prefer ideas to facts, you have often said that in your conferences.
Be careful with theories and opinions, and people are fast to express opinions and theories.
Yeah, but the way you mentioned, the media suddenly wanted to know more about Homo. How do we arrive here? What happens with us? What's at stake with every birth, with every conception also, and all this cycle? Oh, thank you very, very much.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to summarize such a vital issue. Vital. We have to realize that mankind is an endangered species.
Yep.
We must dare to say that, but without going further. So thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Michel. I wish your book the best readership all over the world, and perhaps it will really interest some media people, create some awareness, some wave of awareness, and we'll be together. Thank you very much.
People are ready to assimilate the concept of socialized birth.